we had to make a video for our class, so here goes. I wrote a script and this is about temporal lobe, dysfunctions in temporal lobe activity as it pertains to the amygdala. Okay, people with dysfunction in their mediotemporal lobe may experience symptoms of deja vu, derealization, depersonalization, visual and auditory hallucinations, loss of time, spacing out, and more. Diagnoses that accompany these types of paroxysmal episodes, which paroxysmal means a sudden attack or violent expression of a particular emotion or emotional experience, include partial complex seizures, panic disorder, psychogenic seizures, transient global amnesia, dissociative disorders, migraine, and others. Through neuroimaging, these paroxysmal conditions have been found to be linked to dysfunctional limbic activity in addition and in coordination with the mediotemporal lobe. So seizures in these areas, transient symptoms of perceptual and psychic disturbances are often seen in temporal lobe seizures, specifically those that start in the medial temporal lobe and the amygdala. A related concept that is to this is that of the extended amygdala, which is defined as an anatomical corridor which extends from the medial and central amygdaloid nuclei and have afferent and efferent projections that influence the ventral striatum. Some of those go to the hippocampus, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the ventral striatum, which is part of the basal ganglia and is considered to be involved in emotional motor behaviors. So more on deja vu. I'll get back to that, maybe. So deja vu is the strong felt sense that you have been in a place or experienced something before and are doing so again. These experiences, when persistent and intense, are considered to be a disturbance that involves visual perception and visual memory. There have been cases of people who did not have seizures that were treated for persistent deja vu that caused dysphoria. And most of this research comes out of this book, the Neuropsychiatry of Limbic and Subcortical Disorders. Okay, so there have been several proposed explanations for deja vu. One is that the lateral temporal neocortex receives, direct quote, by the way. One is that the lateral temporal neocortex receives major inputs from the medial and limbic structures, as well as auditory visual association cortices. And that's also implicated in when the hypothetical you would see or hear things during a seizure, and also in psychosis. Seizures in the medial and lateral cortex in the non-dominant hemisphere may activate a memory that becomes associated with the patient's awareness of the environment, giving the current scene a sense of familiarity. Alternatively, feelings of familiarity may be stimulated without activating a memory, giving the sensation that the current scene has been experienced before. So deja vu. And that's a quote from Bang Cloud et al., and as cited in the book I just showed you. A little bit on psychosis now. And I'm using, I'd say, psychosis, but the examples that they use in this book are mostly schizophrenia. So schizophrenia patients show decreased hippocampus and amygdala size, and in neuropsych studies have indicated that patients with schizophrenia have impairments in verbal recognition, a left temporal limbic function, and this performance correlates with the severity of their delusions. And now I'm going to read a quote. Recent developments in neuroscience implicate the temporal limbic lobe in schizophrenia, delusion disorders, and late life psychosis. Investigators found that neuropathological changes in the hippocampi of schizophrenic patients, including bilateral disarray of hippocampal pyramidal cells, apparent neuronal loss, and some degree of gliosis. There are abnormal spike discharges in the anterior temporal lobes and in orbitofrontal cortex during periods of psychosis. Using quantitative magnetic resonance imaging in schizophrenia, Turketsky et al. Demonstrated a decrease in brain volume in the left temporal and right frontal regions. And Sudat et al. Showed decreased size in hippocampus and amygdala bilaterally in effect in a twin study. Moreover, neuropsychological studies indicate that schizophrenic patients have impairments in verbal recognition. Which goes back to the correlation of the severity of people's delusions. And these two conditions, as well as other temporal limbic conditions, are related in how the interplay between temporal limbic function and amygdala function impact perception and experience. And that's the case for experiencing psychosis, experiencing deja vu, which some propose is a form of psychosis, or a form of epilepsy, a form of seizure, and also when experiencing seizures in epileptic patients. And I talk mostly about epilepsy in my presentation, so I'm not going to get too much into that here. But as you can see, there's a lot of overlap between these conditions as they pertain to temporal lobe function. Okay, I'm so sorry, and goodbye.